Diving in today to right mindfulness. We have one more path to go in our series. This path truly does pull it all together. When we look at right view, right thought, right speech, right action, right effort, right livelihood, it all comes together in this path with right mindfulness. Everything to do with being here, being now, being present, and being happy. Sounds beautiful. Stay watching as I teach you what Buddha meant when he looked at right mindfulness. Thank you again for being part of this series. Enjoy this video. Thank you. Hey, welcome back, Bhikkhus. Jeannie Lynch coming to you from our Buddhist series. And we have been busy. We have been on this path together for quite a while. And in fact, don't forget, I'm way ahead of you as far as filming these classes. So let me just kind of give you a reality check on where we are in time. I'm filming for November. This is the 8th video, 7th path. And today we're still in the last aspect of the Dharma wheel when we're in right concentration, the last 3, which is all about meditation and mindfulness and concentration. And we've already covered the wisdom aspect in the first 3 paths. And then we went into the morality, which is, how we live, how we act. This last piece truly does bring it all together. So that's what's most important when we look at mindfulness. Buddha was very deliberate when he opened up the path in this way. And remember, they're not steps, but they're just awareness, okay? And so what we know is, we know we have the right view. We know we're thinking of things in a correct way. We know that, I'm reading off my notes here. We know that we're communicating and we're using right speech, and we're really mindful of that. We're thinking about how we're acting, and we're looking at how our actions and how they play back on us. We covered that in karma, didn't we? And then we also know what jobs we should be having and what we should not be doing as far as our livelihood and how we show up for work, if you remember that one. And the last class truly was all about effort. And you remember, that's the energy we put into things. And we did a lot of work around that. We did a lot of work around what we give energy to, wholesome thoughts, unwholesome thoughts. And we did some really serious work on that, and the last month on Facebook has been around that. So today, now that we know kind of where we've been, we pull it all together in the energy of mindfulness. So when I say mindfulness, I almost have to kind of slow down, don't you? So let's do that. To be mindful, to be liberated, to be enlightened, to be seeing things in the right way. How could we do any of that if we're rushing? We literally have to constantly be thinking and taking a step back and seeing things from a larger view. And that's what's important. And that's what we're talking about when we're talking about mindfulness. So I will say straight up that if you're taking these spiritual classes with me and you're calling yourself a spiritual person, and I love that, I want to be part of that process with you, but you cannot be a spiritual person unless you have a mindfulness practice. And this is the month that, if you haven't already been doing this, we put that action into words. Okay, so let me just kind of tell you where I am. And I kind of just mentioned I'm filming for November, and you guys are coming 2 days from now for May's class. This has totally, absolutely changed my life. So I am recognizing in my own awareness and my own mindfulness, it's kind of interesting how all these steps have really kind of placed me to where I am today. And I'm just so much more aware of what's going on around me. And I'm feeling happier. I'm feeling calmer. The other day, I was joking with Michael. We were in the car, and he seemed like he was kind of like bouncing off the walls. And that's usually my energy. And I made some comment to him like, wow, could you just be a little more chill right now? And he turned around and he looked at me and he goes, hey, I wasn't on my yoga mat for 2 hours and just finished meditating. I need to do that to catch up to you, Jane. So I'm aware of that. That's kind of what's going on in my life. And I hope you're having the same experience. what I also want to recognize is I've been a little bit more emotional, but not in a dramatic way, and more of a just sensitivity to things that are happening around me, and a much easier way of kind of working through dukkha. And in fact, dukkha doesn't even show up. So yeah, it's absolutely, truly changing everything. And I hope when you get to this aspect of the class, you're having the same experience. So I'm assuming you are, or you will be. So let's dive into what we're talking about when we're talking about right mindfulness. As said, it is totally about being calm, being quiet, and being aware. So that's the first thing. So being right mindfulness truly looks at and makes you stop and reflect on that it's all about this moment right now. So it's being in the here and now. Could not talk about mindfulness without talking about this moment. Okay, so that's the first thing you need to know. I will be putting back up the 16 defilements, if you remember that from an old post way back. And those are all the things that mindfulness should not be. Let me just list off a couple so you know what I'm talking about. When we're thinking about being mindful, it should not be greed, ill will, anger, hostility, domineering, pessimism, envy, jealousy, fraud, being presumptuous, conceit. Okay, so those are just the defilements, and I will put those back up because they really do belong in this class, only in the awareness of not to give them energy. And if you remember from our previous work, if you could look at those words, and I think, in fact, that's what I'll do for this class, I'll give you the list of the 16 defilements in Buddhism, and I'll give you the antidotes to each one of them, which of course is the opposite. Okay, so let's move on. In mindfulness, really what we're doing is we're pulling all the path together, and we're just going to recap. These are the 4 contemplations of the Dharma teaching. Dharma meaning the wheel. See my new prop behind me. And the whole Buddhist teaching is on Dharma, right? It's on the Dharma wheel, and that's the aspect of the Eightfold Path. So I know that makes sense. So let's recap in right mindfulness how this should all kind of come together. Are you ready? The first thing you should know, number 1, is that life is absolutely precious. It is an opportunity. It is a blessing. However you want to see your life, if it is suffering, and God, by now we should not be suffering, right? But we know that it exists in our life. We just shouldn't be focused on it. So in this energy that life is an opportunity, life is precious, we should appreciate it, our life force, we should take care of it, we should be healthy, we should be mindful to our life and others' lives around us, right? Not to kill and the rest of it. So we know that, right? That's number 1. Number 2 is just that, well, death is going to happen, right? The one thing we all know is that we're all going to die. And I pray it's not in this moment watching my video, but I know that you're going to die. And that's okay, right? Because of impermanence. So we have to accept that, and we just have to really kind of see it in a beautiful view, right? Story comes to mind yesterday, a couple days ago, my ex-husband's ex-wife posted a beautiful video, a picture of her and her daughter vacationing in Mexico. And so, Steph's this tall, and her beautiful daughter is like so much taller than her. And she was 2 and 3 when Isla passed away. So I've kind of watched her grow up. And I saw this beautiful woman. I saw the mother and her on Facebook having a glorious vacation together in Mexico, laughing and doing crazy things and, jumping off rocks and the rest of it. And my girlfriend, I told my girlfriend about it. I was like, showed her the picture. This is my daughter's sister. And my girlfriend asked, was it hard for me to see? And the truth is, maybe it would have been a year ago, just to see someone else having the experience that, I didn't get to have, and blah, blah, blah. No, didn't feel that at all. I think because of this class, I was able to look at it and just experience joy and realization that, wow, she was 2 and look at her now. She's 17, 18 years old, and she's gorgeous, and there's a loving relationship there, and they're enjoying your time, and that life moves on. in a really beautiful way. So that's my point for number 2, death and impermanence, as we know in the Buddhist teachings. Okay, let's move on. Number 3, that we have to assume complete responsibility for our actions. Okay, if you're saying I'm sorry and it's not because you've tripped over somebody in the grocery store, but it's because you've done something that, your actions were worth an apology, take a step back and be mindful of your actions prior to doing it. Don't set yourself up to fail. Everything you do has that ripple effect, kind of like our karma plant and throwing a stone into the water. Those are some metaphors that we've certainly used in this class. So the awesome power of our actions, but also in a positive way, right? So we've learned that certainly in the Buddhist teaching. So that's number 3 for contemplations of Dharma. And the last one is the escapability of dissatisfaction. So we know that, right? No matter how well we do, and all these lectures I'm listening to with monks and teaching us about anger and forgiveness and stuff, I will tell you there is not one out there who has ever said that they don't get angry or that they don't get annoyed. I mean, they're human, and that so was Buddha, right? He didn't claim to be above and beyond the suffering that was on in the world. So we know that it's going to happen, but through this class, we're being mindful of how we get through it, right? So I love that. All right, so let's keep going. We're going to tie this into, okay, there it is. We're going to tie this into today's class. So get ready, because you've just graduated and you are about to have your own mindful practice. So here's the questions that I would like to talk about today and in this class is, are you ready? What is you have to kind of write a little, 25-word essay on what is your definition of consciousness. Consciousness being liberation, enlightenment, full seeing, full view. I mean, everything we're doing, we are, walking the path. We're talking about becoming more aware. So, conscious, subconscious, unconscious. Okay, what is your definition of it at this point in the class? Do you have one? You need to write it up. And if you don't have an explanation for it, go ahead and look it up. And through, listening to different videos, whatever you need to do to uncover what that word is for you, as we go around the room in our intros, I'm going to ask you to give your definition of consciousness. And again, same word, liberation, enlightenment. What is your definition of it today as we talk about right mindfulness? Okay, so that's your first homework. The second one is we all have people in our life that we look up to and that we admire and we want to be around. And they're a good teacher, they're a good example. They really do walk this walk that we've been walking. And so we're going to call that Buddha nature. So Buddha nature is somebody who seems calm, loving, kind, compassionate, right? I think every single one of us has that person in our life. And maybe it's even an animal. It can be an animal. I want you to come to class and be ready to share. And if you don't know who that is, I want you to go out and find somebody for this class that you think is the best example of Buddha nature. And Buddha nature really is someone who is teaching, somebody who, I'm going to put up a whole video on Buddha nature. That's more to come, but for the sake of this video, just somebody who you think is walking this path already, or and that you aspire to be like, because they're so phenomenal. So we want to know them. We want you to share them. So go look and, hey, acknowledge them, right? Say, hey, I'm taking this Buddhist class and we have to find somebody who has Buddha nature and I've chosen you and here's why. So don't miss that opportunity to acknowledge them. Okay. And then the last thing we're going to do kind of for our homework and for this month as we develop our own mindful practice is you're going to pick something to be mindful of. Yeah, what is that? Food. You're going to be mindful of what you're eating. Could be working out. Maybe you're working out too much. Okay. and you need to be a little bit more mindful on rest. Maybe you need to be mindful of how much TV you're watching. Maybe you need to be mindful of how much time you're wasting, or how much time you're not giving yourself. Pick one. Tell us what it's going to be. Communicate to whomever we're working, and partner you up probably again. Figure out what that practice is. And to the person that you had, no, change that. I am going to sign you up with somebody new. You're going to focus on that for the next 30 days. You need to develop a mindful practice. And maybe it's even a meditation practice. You want extra credit, have it be about meditation. Okay, that's the last thing. So I think I'll end with this video when we're talking about mindfulness. And remember, we're bringing this all together and we're just being mindful of Buddhist teaching now. And we're putting all that mindfulness into action and into our energy and into our day, into our daily practice. And we're slowing down and we're being in this moment to do that. So that's our charge for this month, and that's where you should be in this class. And I'm going to end this video with a beautiful story, or kind of a funny story that I got out of one of my books. I'll share some of my books with you. My Buddha Doodles love. And thanks to Deborah, I did order this one, my other book, and I just got this one, which I love. And they're really all just basic teachings of the Buddhists, and I'm really enjoying it. So in one of these books, the last story is, and then I'll end this video, there was a philosopher who was following around Buddha and trying to be like him and taking notes. And, in today's world, it would be like, writing a story on Buddha. And remember, Buddha always positioned himself to be, not a god, right? He was a teacher, and he just said, follow by example, okay, Buddha nature. So anyway, this gentleman was following him and taking notes and being really mindful to Buddha. And, so finally he called him over and he says, I just don't get this. He says, I'm watching you, I'm following you, I'm observing you every day, and you get up at 4 o'clock and you eat your bowl and you meditate and you go for a walk and you work in the Sangha and you do your chores just like everybody else. With the monks, what sets you so much aside? Why are you truly the enlightened one? And Buddha looks over at this gentleman and says, well, yes, you're right. We do. We get up at 4, we eat, we go for a walk, we work in the fields, we come back, we meditate, we do all these things. He said, the difference between you and myself and the monks is that when the monks and I are doing this, we actually know that we're walking. We know that we're eating. We know that we're working in the fields, and we know that we're meditating. Do you love that? That truly is all the energy. I could have just said that and you would have been home by now. That truly is the energy of right mindfulness. There'll be more to come on all of our Facebook posts. I will put up as much as I can. And again, your charge this month is to develop your own mindful practice. And if you need help with that, reach out to me. I will absolutely assist you through this process. This is Jeannie Lynch, loving and lighting you, and just so happy. It's just been such an amazing experience. No more words to say. Right speech. I'm done. Have a fabulous night. We'll see you at class, and enjoy the process. Namaste.